Greeting fellow Europeans. My name is Erik Kaliňák. I'm a vice chairman of Slovak opposition political party Smer Social Democracy, a political party with more than 20 years long tradition, and I would like to inform you of what is currently happening in Slovakia, the heart of Europe, how we are losing our freedom, our rights, our democracy. We have become hostages in our own country. Despite the fact that more than 70% of citizens distrust the current government and the chairman of the leading political party is reaching 90% disapproval rates, we were stripped of our rights and are unable to democratically overthrow the government. The current leaders have failed in governing our country, and in response, the citizens have collected in record time almost 600,000 signatures for a referendum about the dissolution of parliament and snap elections. However, the referendum was blocked by the Slovak president, who persuaded the constitutional court that such referendum would be unconstitutional. I want to stress that the exact same type of referendum took place twice in the past and was considered constitutional. This was, however, only the beginning. The government decided to take advantage of the war in Ukraine and blocked the media, which were their vocal critics. They have done so without any trial or court decision, only with a single argument that the media were guilty of spreading Russian propaganda and lies threatening the credibility of the current government. They did not show the proof of their accusations, because the information was classified. Yes, you heard that right, classified lies. Obviously, the government has blocked only the media that were openly informing and criticizing them for the destruction of the rule of law, and so only pro-government media remain. For 2 years now, the current leaders have not been governing or taking care of Slovak citizens because they were focused on exacting personal revenge on the current opposition leaders. To reach this, they have created a system where tens, if not hundreds of people have been detained and taken into custody in past 2 years under the false accusations with a single goal: to psychologically break them in custody and in exchange for freedom, force them to testify and sign whatever the political investigators need on their hunt for opposition. This system has completely replaced the legal investigation procedures and has led to terrible tragedies. Within this system, 9 people have either committed suicide or were found dead under suspicious circumstances in only the past 2 years. In the same time span, the Constitutional Court has confirmed 16 major violations of fundamental rights and freedoms of people who, as punishment for not cooperating, were in custody for months and in some cases even for more than a year. This abusive system was, however, taking longer than expected, so the decision was made to straight up spy on the leader of Smer, Mr. Fico. The investigator has filmed hours upon hours of private discussions between Mr. Fico and the advocates under the false accusations of poaching. Yes, you heard that right. Opposition leader was being spied on for months under the false investigation of poaching. When they realized there was nothing illegal on the tapes, they decided to leak them to the media and that way at least politically smear Mr. Fico. The investigator who was responsible for spying is currently facing charges for abuse of power, yet, despite that, he is still active in his position. We just entered the second half of election term and the polls are showing that the 2 of the strongest opposition parties could very well win the elections and form the government. The current government is aware of this and has decided to do the unimaginable. They decided to flat out criminalize the opposition, abuse the criminal law and imprison the members of opposition under the false accusations of creating, establishing and aiding criminal organization. First one arrested was a member of my family, 3 times Minister of Interior Affairs, Mr. Kaliňák. The government is currently doing everything to make sure that our chairman, Mr. Fico, will follow. The main crime of this alleged criminal organization is not corruption, money laundering, or any sort of financial crime. No. The main crime is doing their political work and revealing, not forging, but revealing truthful information about tax frauds of our former President Kiska and former Prime Minister Matović. In both of these cases, this information was confirmed, and yet both of these politicians are founders of the current government. The entire accusation is completely fabricated and built purely on testimonies of criminals who have flipped and are now cooperating with the current government without a single shred of evidence supporting their claims. The most famous example of such a flipped criminal is Mr. Mako, who is currently testifying in a record-setting 86 cases. And despite being charged with the most serious economic crimes, he works as a free man and his company is receiving huge multi-million government contracts. I want to make one thing very clear. Everyone in Smer insists on proper investigation of any allegations against us, because only then can the real truth see the light of the day. But what we are currently facing bears all marks of illegal political process. The Dean of Faculty of Law at the most respected Comenius University, Eduard Burda, renowned expert in criminal law, together with Professor of Criminal Law Jaroslav Ivor, claim that the charges are overqualified, lack evidence, and contain multiple formal and legal defects. There can be no doubt that the government is behind these criminal accusations. Here are the definite proofs. The whole investigation is under supervision of the Special Prosecutor Office. The head of this office is lawfully convicted, non-prosecutor, and long-time politician Daniel Lipšic, who used to be a member of the current governing political movement Olano, whose only agenda was imprisoning Fico and other Smer leaders. In order to make Lipšic special prosecutor, the coalition had to charge and put into the custody the previous special prosecutor, change the law so that non-prosecutors could apply for the position, and even break the law, just so that Lipšic could receive the necessary security clearance. Next piece of evidence are the transcripts of legal monitoring of political investigators. Here are just few quotes revealing how politicized our National Criminal Agency currently is. The goal is to make a criminal organization out of Smer and in that way completely destroy the opposition. We must work on Fico, Kaliňák and Pellegrini, the current leaders of opposition. These direct quotes definitely confirm the warnings of the Slovak Information Service presented in a report to the National Parliament in 2021, in which the service informed us about the police manipulation of the live political cases. The Minister of Interior Affairs not only knew about this manipulation, but the accumulating evidence reveals he played an active role and was giving direct orders to the investigators. He went as far as giving the order to the chief of the police to interrupt the live action of police inspection against 3 criminals who were falsely testifying in many political cases. Since this scandal, the political investigators were charged with obstructing justice and abuse of power, and yet, despite these charges, they not only continue to work in National Criminal Agency, they were even promoted in rank as well as in position. The leader of these investigators is poised to become the head of the West branch of this agency. The definitive proof that Mr. Fico is facing a politicized process is the fact that the governing members of parliament fully support the notion of arresting Fico without actually knowing anything about the allegations or the reasons why custody is necessary. Let me tell you why the Slovak opposition leader will most likely spend the upcoming months in prison. The special prosecutor is afraid that Mr. Fico may interfere with the witnesses through his political press conferences. You heard that right. Slovak opposition leaders are currently being accused of creating a criminal organization which committed a crime of revealing true information about tax frauds of political leaders of current coalition, and the reason why they must be imprisoned and held in custody before their trial is that they may allegedly interfere with the witnesses through their political press conferences. When Fico asked the investigator in charge during yesterday's interrogation to explain to him what is he accused of, the investigator remained silent. When he asked him about the argument on page 103, he remained silent. When he asked for the translation of used complicated English legal terms, he remained silent. The deafening silence meant only one thing. He isn't the one behind the charges. He is simply following the orders. There has never been a criminal case more politicized than this. Slovakia is unfortunately no longer a democratic state governed by the rule of law. Our National Criminal Agency, Special Prosecution and Specialized Criminal Court have been compromised and fully politicized. All of this may sound like a horribly written criminal novel, and yet this has become our everyday reality, and as a nation we are heading into a terrible civil war. I entered the public life as a young person full of ideals, but today I have trouble believing we are in 21st century democracy and part of European Union.